I never imagined a single moment of mourning would turn a black beggar into a millionaire. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sky was gray, heavy with the weight of impending rain. I stood on the corner of 5th and Main, breath clouding in the chilly air, heart racing. No one noticed me, a ghost among many, until the scream shattered the silence. Drifting voices blended into a sharp gash of panic. "Someone call 911. It echoed through the street, weaving into our busy lives like a knife slicing through flesh. My throat tightened as I turned. There he was, Theo, the beggar I'd often seen perched against the crumbling wall, wearing layers of stained fabric. Today, he lay sprawled on the pavement, unmoving. The world had stopped with him. A frail figure, he looked so small I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to erase the sight. But there was no escaping the truth. This was real. It felt unreal. He had been more than just a beggar. Our paths crossed often. On days when my fortune seemed dim, he would smile, his missing teeth shining like stars against the darker universe of our reality. "Better days are coming," he'd say, his voice warm and rich with hope. Now, hope might have fled with him, leaving me shivering in despair. Within moments, the crowd grew. I noticed murmurs sweeping through people like wildfire. Some know him. Caring souls kneeling, gentle hands pressed against his chest. Others gazed upon the scene, eyes glazed over, ignorance wrapped around them like a blanket. I glanced around. Eyes wide, mouths agape, disbelief etched across every expression. What would it take to make them see? To understand? Then came the sirens, shrieking like banshees. People flinched as emergency lights flickered through the dim twilight, reflecting red and blue off the concrete. They loaded him onto a stretcher, the life drained from his face. But then, as they pulled away, an old woman approached. Her eyes flickered with something. Was it grief? Anger? It was too intense, unsettling. She stumbled, holding out a worn leather pouch. "Take this," she rasped, breath hitching. I felt the eyes on me, watching, waiting. "It belongs to him. You must know what was in there." My heart pounded. I hesitated, caught in the web of curiosity and dread. I reached out, fingers trembling, brushing the soft leather. Why me? I barely knew him. This moment felt like a shift. An electric pulse ran through me. The pouch vibrated with untold stories, promises, mysteries. I hesitated, glancing around at the crowd, faces filled with expectation, yearning. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air hung thick with uncertainty as I clutched the worn leather pouch. The old woman's gaze burned into me, imploring me to uncover whatever secrets it contained. The weight of the moment threatened to suffocate me, but beneath the layers of fear and confusion, a flicker of connection sparked a bridge between the grief I felt and the life I hadn't even begun to understand. As the crowd began to dissipate, lost in their own lives once again, I stood rooted in place, my heart racing. I could still hear the sirens fading into the distance, taking Theo with them, yet leaving behind an echo of all that had been unsaid between us. Slowly, I knelt on the pavement, the coolness of the concrete grounding me, urging me to breathe. In that stillness, I unfastened the pouch. Inside lay a small stack of envelopes, neatly tied with fraying string. Each envelope was marked with dates and names that tumbled into my consciousness like forgotten dreams. Scanning the titles, my mind whirled, thinking of the stories Theo had shared, the ones filled with the music of his past, the scent of dirt from distant lands, and the comfort of family he no longer had. But now, as I read, they took on new meanings, shadows stretching across the light of hope. Forcing myself to remain calm, I slipped open the first envelope. Inside, a faded photograph slipped into view, a much younger Theo, grinning widely beside a boy who could only be his brother. But what struck me wasn't just the joyous expression on his face, but the rallying energy that emanated from that moment, a life full of promise that gave weight to the words he had shared with me. I felt the sting of tears in my eyes. I wasn't just mourning a stranger, I was mourning the lost potential he had spoken of endlessly. In that moment, I understood that this was no mere coincidence, it was an opportunity to piece together the life he had fought to live. Determination surged through me as I thumbed through more envelopes, each holding snippets of truth, financial papers, old letters, the ink faded but the emotions timeless. Each item told a vivid story that felt like it belonged to me as much as it had to him. Layers of complexity unraveled at my fingertips, dreams interrupted by circumstance, aspirations dimmed by hopelessness. My heart raced with newfound purpose. I imagined how I could honor Theo's legacy, perhaps even discover the millionaire he once was before the world cast him aside. But with every step toward this understanding, I felt a gnawing fear creep in. What if I wasn't worthy of this knowledge? What if the lessons woven into these memories carried burdens I wasn't ready to bear? An unexpected hand fell on my shoulder. Startled, I turned to see the old woman peering at me, her gaze softening. "You found his treasure," she murmured, a wistful smile breaking through her solemnity. "You must carry it forward, child." Theo believed in more than what the world showed him. He believed in people. Her voice cracked, and a tear slipped silently down her cheek. "Yes, but I began, unsure how to express the load resting heavy in my heart. I barely knew him. How can I do this?" "By caring," she replied gently. "Each story has the power to ignite hope. You may not see it now, but this is your chance to bring light back into a world too often shadowed by despair. Sometimes, kindness reflects back. And sometimes, it even greets you from your own heart." Her words swirled within me as I glanced back at the pile of letters and memories, growing heavier, rich with responsibility. I thought of the lives Theo once touched, the simple smiles exchanged on cold corners, and my heart clenched painfully. But then, beneath the weight of despair, a hope began to blossom. What if, in my efforts to navigate the labyrinth of his life, I could bring others together? What if I could rekindle that flicker of human connection in a world so easily distracted by indifference? Just then, as I placed the photograph back in the pouch, my phone vibrated in my pocket, startling me. It was a text from an unknown number. Curiosity Ward. With caution as I opened it. "Your friend Theo had more than you realize. Meet me at the old warehouse on Oak Street. Tonight. 9 p.m. You're not alone." My breath caught in my throat. How could this stranger know about Theo? A wave of uncertainty washed over me, thick and suffocating, matched only by the tantalizing nudge of fate. As I stood up, I glimpsed the city alive with flickering lights, all unknowingly separated, yet somehow, I was about to step into a world of hidden connections that chafed against the very ordinary I had always known. With the pouch under my arm and my heart racing, I knew I had to go. Things were not done unraveling, and mysteries yet lay ahead. I felt a pull toward the unknown, where despair would meet hope once again. What awaited me at the warehouse? Would it shine light on the man I thought I had lost? Or would it lead me deeper into the darkness? There was only one way to find out. As I made my way through the city streets, the world blurred around me. My heart thundered in my chest, propelled not just by the uncertainty awaiting me but by the raw concern for a man I barely knew. Theo's life, once a flickering ember in the distance, was morphing into a bonfire, casting shadows on the walls of my heart, beckoning me to delve deeper. The concrete underfoot felt familiar yet foreign, each step imbued with a sense of purpose that was both daunting and hope-filled. The sky transformed into a canvas of dark blues and purples as night fell, the chill in the air matching the shiver of anticipation racing through me. I thought about the old woman's words, kindness and hope intertwined, a delicate dance of shared humanity. But how could I bring hope for others amidst the fragments of loss I hadn't yet deciphered? as I approached the dilapidated warehouse on Oak Street, a sense of foreboding washed over me. Vast and battered, it loomed, just as shadows of doubt loomed in my mind. But the faint glow of light filtering through cracked windows signaled that someone awaited me inside. I paused for a breath beneath its arching frame, allowing the biting cold to awaken the resolve within me. I pushed the door open, and a creaky sound echoed throughout the cavernous space. As my eyes adjusted, I saw a figure half-shrouded in shadow, leaning against an old wooden crate. The contrast between the dark depths of the warehouse and the unforeseen brightness of this moment sent a ripple through my core. "Good, you came," the figure said, stepping into the glow of a dim bulb overhead, revealing a young man with tousled hair and striking blue eyes. "I hoped you would be bold enough to trust your instincts." "Who are you?" I asked, my voice wavering in the stillness. "Call me Max," he replied, an easy smile contrasting with the tension lingering around us. "I was a friend of Theo's. He had a gift for drawing people together, didn't he?" I nodded, my heart swelling. "I want to know everything. The letters, the memories, the life he lived. He deserves to be remembered." Max's smile faltered for a moment, replaced with an expression of solemn recognition. "You're right. But it's not just about remembrance. It's about understanding his legacy and the connections he forged." As he spoke, he moved closer, gesturing for me to sit on an old, cracked crate beside him. Theo had a vision, one that he shared with a select few. But as the years went by, he became more isolated, swallowed by the shadows of a world that often overlooked him. Most of what he wanted to achieve was never fulfilled, but you have a chance. "Me?" I asked, incredulous. The weight of that statement pulsed through the air between us. "What do you mean?" Theo believed in the power of community. He wanted to create a space where people like him, people who felt lost, could find their way back. He gathered resources, made connections without ever holding on to wealth himself. And when he fell into despair, the world lost sight of his vision. I felt a knot in my throat at the thought of anything dimming the light that flickered inside him. He spoke of a family and dreams. Many of those dreams were about collaboration, about combining efforts to uplift one another. He poured his heart into a project that he never got to see come to fruition, Max revealed, his intensity vivid. And the envelopes you hold contain pieces of that project. They're not just memories, they're potentials waiting to be unlocked. As the realization settled in, a swell of responsibility ignited within me. "What do I do?" I whispered, heat flushing through my skin as if I'd inherited an impossible mantle. Max leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You need to meet the other people involved, the ones Theo trusted. They know secrets, hidden truths about his dreams. You can help protect what he built, but time is of the essence." My heart raced, but a part of me froze. What if they reject me? I'm not like him, not a hero or anything. Theo saw potential in everyone. The world is filled with hidden treasures, and sometimes it just takes someone willing to look closer. Each person can help you unlock the next door, but you must be ready to rise to the challenge. Before I could respond, a loud crash reverberated through the warehouse, startling both of us to our feet. My breath hitched as a group of shadowy figures burst through the entryway, faces I didn't recognize but felt a chilling entanglement of dread surrounding. The air trembled with palpable tension, and one of them stepped forward, eyes boring into mine like a knife. "Hand over the pouch," he demanded, his tone dripping with menace. "It belongs to us." The unmistakable weight of danger settled heavily on my shoulders, intertwining with the threads of hope beginning to weave their way into my heart. What lay ahead was fraught with peril, and the delicate balance between light and shadow teetered with the tension of unspoken truths that I gripped the pouch tightly against my chest, suddenly aware that my decision to learn the truth had put me squarely in the crosshairs of whatever legacy Theo had left behind. Just as fear threatened to overwhelm me, I exchanged a glance with Max, whose steady resolve anchored me in the storm of uncertainty. "You can't take it," I managed to say, voice trembling yet strong, bravery wrestling with fear. but the darkness was closing in, and I knew then that whatever I ventured into would come at a cost far greater than I had anticipated. Would I find the strength to protect Theo's legacy, or would I become the next casualty in a battle between light and darkness? The answer hung in the air like a fragile thread, threatening to snap. The darkness enveloped the warehouse, swallowing the flickering light overhead as panic surged within me. I had barely unraveled the threads of Theo's legacy, and now I was caught in a web of confrontation, uncertainty, and fear. The man's piercing eyes cut through me like shards of glass, demanding control I wasn't ready to relinquish. "Please," I said, my voice quivering as I took a small step back, my grip tightening around the pouch. "I don't know what you want from me, but I'm not giving this up. It belongs to Theo." The tension thickened, and I could feel Max shift beside me, his stature growing more protective, an invisible wall between the encroaching shadows and my feeble resolve. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," the man said, voice laced with an unsettling calm. "This isn't just about reminiscence, this is about power and the legacy that you have no right to claim." Max held his ground. "You've already lost the essence of what Theo believed in. You can't just take what he worked for without understanding its value." A small murmur crossed the group behind the lead man. I couldn't discern their expressions, but the air rippled with emotions I recognized: resentment, desperation, longing. Suddenly, a woman emerged from the shadows, her face partially hidden beneath a worn hood. She stepped forward, her presence radiating an unexpected warmth, in contrast to the chill of animosity that pressed upon us. "I know Theo's dreams better than you," she said, her voice steady and melodic. "Behind that pouch lies not just his work, but a chance to mend a fractured community." "What do you mean?" I blurted out, my heart pounding. "How can a collection of letters and old memories save anything? Theo had a vision to unite us, to remind us that the strongest threads of humanity often lay in the hands of those who have lost everything," she replied. Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears, a flicker of compassion breaking through the intensifying confrontation. "We were lost without him, but if we could work together there's still hope." While the lead man glared at her as though she were betraying the purpose of their gathering, a flurry of emotions stirred deep within me. For the first time, I could see that the pouch contained more than just memories. It was an opportunity for something profound, a chance to connect and heal fragments of lives that had somehow become intertwined through Theo. "Maybe," I ventured, my voice shaky but fortified by conviction. "Maybe if you put down the hostility, you could see how Theo's dreams can still live on. I don't know how his vision can be realized, but I'm willing to try." There was a long pause, a moment that stilled time between fear and a glimmer of hope. The woman's hand reached out as if inviting possibility, her gesture a silent plea for peace. The others hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty breaking through the veil of their aggression. "Think about it," she murmured. "What if we could combine our strengths? We could rebuild what was lost in the cracks of despair." But just as she voiced the words, a loud crash shattered the uneasy stillness, as if the universe itself had wanted to intervene. The roof caved in at one end, sending debris tumbling, and the figures stumbled back in shock. Max seized my arm, pulling me aside just in time to avoid a falling beam. "Go!" he shouted, a sense of urgency propelling him forward as debris rained down. "We need to regroup outside before they catch us." Disoriented, my mind raced as Max led me towards the back exit. But as we reached the door, I realized others from the group had hesitated. They watched the exchange in bewilderment, caught between the remnants of anger and the lure of a connection they once shared. "Wait!" I called, stopping just shy of the threshold. "If you want to follow Theo's vision, join us. We can still make it happen together." Hope flickered in the eyes of the woman, her resolve seemingly sparkling amidst the debris and disorder. But the lead man whipped around, this time raw fury etched across his face. "You're going to regret this," he snarled, unleashing a defiance that echoed through the high walls of the warehouse. Uncertainty merged with a fierce energy, and my heart raced as I turned to leave, unsure if I had just thrown open the doors of possibility or merely invited my looming demise. Outside, the night air felt alive with the weight of unspoken secrets, hope, and threats as I stumbled back into the world beyond, where shadows danced, weaving an intricate tapestry that threatened to capture my very essence. As Max and I rushed into the alley, I realized a terrifying truth. I had embarked on a journey not merely to honor Theo's memory, but to protect a legacy that might forever alter the lives of those intertwined with him. My thoughts swirled around the haunting question: if buried within these connections lay the power to uplift or doom, which path would I ultimately choose to walk? The answer lingered just out of reach, as bright and elusive as the suddenly dimming stars above. The air in the alley was tinged with a sense of urgency, the kind that makes the heart beat faster, but there was something more pressing beneath it all, a raw desperation that clawed at my insides. Max grasped my hand tightly, leading us down the narrow, damp corridor while shadows loomed like phantoms, threatening to engulf us once again. "What the hell just happened back there?" he demanded as we rounded the corner. His brow was furrowed, the lines etched deep from worry. "Did you hear what she said? That woman, she believes in this?" "I don't know, Max," I replied breathlessly, trying to catch up with my racing thoughts. But she felt different. Like she carried something real. My fingers danced across the pouch securely tucked close to my body, the weight of it now akin to a ticking clock, a countdown to something monumental. "But what you're asking?" he pressed, stopping abruptly to face me. "You want to unite those people? They're lost in anger, and you think some old letters can heal that?" "Maybe it's not just about the letters," I argued, the passion escalating in my voice. "It's about the connections. We can't just abandon hope because it feels impossible." Theo believed there was value in community. As we stepped out into the flickering streetlight, my eyes caught on a figure slumped against the wall, a beggar cloaked in tattered rags, his face obscured by shadows. Something tugged at my heartstrings. His aura was heavy with the burdens of lost dreams but also flickered with a quiet resilience. He met my gaze, his expression unreadable yet hauntingly familiar. "We need to keep moving," Max murmured, sensing my lingering attachment to the stranger. "Let us go before they find us." But an inexplicable pull held me back. "Please," I called out to him, the sound a whisper tinged with urgency. "What is your name?" "Eli," the man replied, his voice raspy but rich, as if each word was a reminder of struggles and stories intertwined with time. "Why do you care?" "Because I see you," I admitted, feeling vulnerable. "And I think there's an opportunity to gather people like you, those who have been cast aside, people with dreams that matter." His laughter was bitter, laced with disbelief. "You think dreams matter to the world? This world takes and takes, there's no room for people like me." But there was a flicker in his gaze, a spark waiting for kindling that I stepped closer, ignoring Max's concerned tug. "What if I told you that I just lost someone, and I need help? Not just for me, but for a community that feels forgotten." Eli's eyes searched my face, as if weighing the sincerity of my words, and for a moment, the noise of the world faded. "The world doesn't want to hear from the likes of us. You're better off staying away." "Maybe," I conceded, feeling a wave of sorrow rising in my chest. "But what if we could change that? What if together, we could bring something back to life, a voice for the voiceless?" The moment hung thick in the air, a fragile balance suspended between despair and curiosity. Max stood nearby, his expression uncertain, but I felt a small tremor of hope light the dark fire of my heart. I took a deep breath and stepped further into Eli's space. "Help me rally those who still believe in something beautiful, who long for connection. You might see that your voice carries more power than you've ever known." Everything about Eli seemed to vibrate with the inner battle of hope versus years of disillusionment. Just when I thought he might dismiss me outright, he shifted slightly and leaned forward, intrigue cresting the surface of his caution. "What do you need?" Before I could respond, an ominous sound reached my ears, the unmistakable rev of an engine echoing off the alley walls. Panic surged again through my veins. "They're coming. We need to go." Max's voice sliced through the moment, urgency flooding his tone. "Eli, please," I implored, my heart racing. Join us. We can find a way to make our voices heard. We can change everything. Eli hesitated, his eyes darting toward the entrance of the alley as headlights streaked across the asphalt. He began, uncertainty coating his words. You have no idea what you're asking of me. Suddenly, he angled away as grim figures emerged from the brightness, shadows sharpening into the forms of the very men we had fled. They were back, and they had come with intent, a promise of danger that slithered through the air. Before I could reach for Eli, he turned, bolting deeper into the recesses of the alley and disappearing into the shadows. My heart sank as his retreat mirrored the sinking feeling in my chest. Max grabbed my arm, pulling me closer to him. Come on, he urged, fear coursing through his voice, and we took off, weaving through the dark shaped by the sharp breaths of uncertainty and the pounding of our hearts. But as we emerged onto a bustling street, my mind was fixed on a singular thought. Eli was lost in the night, perhaps cursed to remain unheard, while I had just unleashed a new wave of pain alongside inspiration. The conflict within me surged. I didn't know if the hope sparked in that alley would shine or diminish altogether, and as we turned the corner, a cold realization gripped me. The legacy of Theo was no longer just a memory, it was about to embrace a storm that I had only begun to understand. Where would this path lead me? As those around me began to shuffle, life continuing as usual, a weight bore down on my soul. The fight was just beginning, but I could sense dark tides turning, and this time, the stakes were higher than I had ever imagined. The night air thickened with an unsettling chill as Max and I navigated through the bustling streets, my heart pounding in time with every hurried footstep. I risked a glance over my shoulder, half expecting to see those men following us, but the shadows swirled in their own dance, indifferent to my urgency. My mind replayed Eli's retreat, every flicker of uncertainty in his eyes igniting a desperate fire in my chest. Why had he run? What had I failed to say that could have anchored him by our side? Are you okay? Max's voice pulled me back to the chaos of the city. I don't know, I replied truthfully, threading my fingers tightly through his. I thought he might understand. Understand what? Max asked, urgency lacing his tone. What exactly are we hoping for? This is bigger than us, we're stepping into a storm we can't control. I knew he was right. The world felt more dangerous than ever, filled with uncertainties wrapped tightly around my heart. Yet Eli's figure flickered in my mind, a reminder of what I hoped to create, a fragile dream that might gather lost souls like moths to a flame. Listen, I know it sounds impossible, I said, my voice nearly drowned by the rumble of the crowd. But I really believe we can change things together. By just asking people to believe. Max's eyes held a mix of irritation and concern, his frustration bleeding through the cracks of our fading resolve. You're naive, and it's dangerous to be in this position. We're drawing attention we can't handle. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught in my throat as a commotion erupted a few paces ahead. We halted, uncertain. A small group had gathered, faces etched in concern, and their voices rose urgently, some shouting, others crying out for help. Don't! I urged, gripping Max's arm tightly. We can't get involved. But something primal tugged at me. I moved forward, drawn to the scene. As we weaved through the crowd, I caught sight of a young woman on the ground, crumpled like a discarded piece of paper. She looked pale, terrified. She needs an ambulance. Someone shouted, panic slicing through the air. It took mere moments to reach her side. I knelt down, seeing her despair mirrored in her eyes. What happened? I asked, though the answer felt unnecessary. The desperation was palpable. She was hit by a car, a man replied, his face pale. The driver just took off. We can't find her pulse. My heart plummeted. In the midst of chaos, I felt that same urge to reach out, but this time it felt weighty with guilt. I glanced at Max, and a flood of unsaid words passed between us. It was as though we were unearthing our vulnerability in this moment wrought with pain that I squeezed the woman's hand gently. Stay with us. Help is coming. Please, God, she rasped, despair clawing at her voice. It struck me then, how easily life could slip through one's fingers just as I watched Theo's slip away. "Look at me," I urged, focusing all my energy into her gaze. "You're going to be okay. Keep breathing. We're here for you." The crowd's noise blurred into a distant murmuration as I anchored myself in her glazed eyes, praying. Then I noticed a flash of light beyond the chaos, the ever-persistent flickering of hope amidst despair. An elderly woman stepped forward from the side, clutching a phone, her hands trembling. "It's coming," she said, determination flooding her voice. "Help is coming. Don't lose hope." I grabbed onto that flicker. "Yes. Just hold on." Before this moment, I never fully understood how unyielding a small gesture could be. The people around us were simply individuals, but together in this dark patch of the night, we formed a constellation of connection. Eventually, the sirens pierced the air, their sound a balm for the wounds raw and unhealed. As the paramedics arrived, I felt the weight of the world shift around us, loss, desperation, compassion, they all intertwined in a delicate, messy tapestry. But as they began tending to the young woman, my thoughts drifted back to Eli. Would his voice ever join this chorus? Would he stand with us or remain trapped in the grasp of shadows? As we stepped back to allow the professionals to carry on, I found myself facing Max once more. "This is bigger than just us, isn't it?" I murmured, still haunted by the flickers of hope that swayed in uncertain currents. "To change everything, we need brave hearts willing to stand with us," he replied quietly, his hands easing the tension coiled around mine. Just then, we caught sight of the crowd parting like waves, revealing a figure familiar in the muddled chaos. My heart raced as I recognized Eli's silhouette emerging from the shadows, his features sharpened by the streetlights. "Eli!" I called out, but there was an unusual intensity in his expression, a level of determination that made me pause. He stopped a few feet from us, his eyes sweeping the scene before settling on me, then darting toward the gatherers. "If you're serious about creating change, then you need to understand this isn't just a dream. It requires sacrifice." "Sacrifice?" I echoed, feeling the weight of every syllable. "Those who are forgotten are not voiceless," he said, each word carefully measured. "But they will fight to be heard, even if that means becoming something that can't be returned." As he spoke, the weight of his gaze bore down on me, a revelation that trembled on the verge of clarity. The urge to grasp this moment, to pull him closer into my vision of unity, was swallowed by the gravity of what lay ahead. Without letting go of Max's hand, I stepped forward, adrenaline surging. "We need you, Eli." "We can," but he turned away, retreating into the shadows once more, leaving me with a thundering sense of urgency and uncharted fear. "You don't know what's at stake," his voice echoed back, mingling with the chorus of sirens fading into the night, piercing my resolve with a chilling reminder that the journey was only beginning. What unspeakable hurdles awaited us? I was uncertain as we fell back into the cacophony, but I knew one thing with relentless clarity: I had to find Eli again. I had to prove to him that hope still lived in this world, and together, we could confront the darkness emerging on the horizon. The night wore on, and the streets began to breathe a different kind of life. With Eli slipping back into the obscurity from which he emerged, a heavy dread settled in my chest, intertwining itself with the adrenaline that still coursed through my veins. Max's grip on my hand was a lifeline, yet I could feel the distance growing. "Let us get out of here," Max said, his voice low and strained. "We both need to think." As we moved away from the crowd, the city's chaos faded, but the pounding of my heart remained a constant companion. Each step felt monumental, the pavement beneath my feet heavy with the weight of unspoken fears. My breathing quickened, spiraling into a storm as I grappled with Eli's words. Sacrifices and shadows, what did it all mean? "Hey," Max's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts. "You're lost in there. We can't change the world tonight. We've already taken a step. Just breathe." I nodded, though the turbulence in my mind thrummed with intensity. "I know, but Eli, he's part of this. I can't let him go." If he'd just stay, my voice trailed off, catching the bitter edge of regret. Maybe he's not ready, Max offered, his eyes softening as he studied me. And maybe there's still time for him, but you can't bear that weight alone. You can't force someone to see what they're not ready to believe. A sudden thought struck me, sharp and penetrating. What if he's in danger? What if he's caught up in something we don't understand? Panic rose like bile in my throat, choking me. Then we find a way to help him. Together, Max said firmly, stopping to face me. But not at the cost of your own spirit. That's what the darkness wants, to smother the light before it even gets a chance to shine. His words hung in the air, a faint shimmer of truth woven through the heaviness. Those words evoked a surreal sense of strength, yet shadows of doubt clung like stubborn vines. Suddenly, a raucous outburst erupted nearby, pulling me back from my racing thoughts. We rounded a corner to find a small group gathered around a homeless man, draped in tattered clothing and exuding visible decrepitude. He was shouting at a passerby, his eyes wild, as if the world was an extension of his anguish. I released Max's hand and approached cautiously, my heart aching at the sight. "Are you okay?" I asked, kneeling next to him. "What's happening?" "Leave me be," he growled, his voice cracking free from despair and anger. "No one cares about the likes of me. Just keep walking." "Please, I'm only here to help," I pleaded softly, risking a glance at the gathering crowd. Their faces painted with curiosity, a mix of judgment and apathy flashed before me like disorienting lightning. "Help?" The man scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "You think your kind of help is what we need? You don't understand what it means to be forgotten." "Maybe I don't," I admitted, the truth of his words weighing heavy on my heart. "But I know the pain of being lost. No one should endure that alone." The others began to murmur, some edging closer, curious. But I noticed something shift in the man's expression, a flicker of recognition. I was terrified of what I might awaken in him, yet I kept going. I can't change the world and its cruelty overnight, but we all deserve a moment of kindness. Sometimes, it just takes one hand to uplift another. He paused, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly, if only for a fleeting moment. "You're a fool," he muttered, though his eyes shone with an ember of vulnerability. "Maybe," I replied, feeling the corners of my heart unfurl. "But I'd rather be a foolish dreamer than someone who turns away." In that small moment, I saw the light between despair and glimmering possibility. A realization washed over me. I wasn't just grasping at the vines of hope, I was nurturing them, watering seeds that could grow, wilting perhaps in the harsh light of reality but reborn in kindness. Max joined me by my side, his support grounding me as I stood shoulder to shoulder with the man. As more faces began to open, one woman stepped forward, a bundle of clothes wrapped in her arms. Compassion just as powerful as the despair surrounding us. "For what it's worth, you are not invisible," she said softly, placing the clothing gently on the ground before him. "Each of us deserves a bit of care." As the first rays of grace slipped through the tendrils of suffering, I felt a lightness begin to breathe within me. Maybe, despite the darkness, we could kindle a small spark out of this agony, a tiny ripple that could expand beyond despair's grasp. But just then, through the shimmering tenderness of the moment, a familiar sharp laugh echoed behind us. I turned sharply, and standing at the edge of the crowd was Eli, a smile that didn't reach his eyes, coated in the essence of mockery. "So this is what you've resorted to? Saving broken souls with empty words?" His voice rang out, a wretched harmony punctuating the fragile peace, and my stomach twisted at the sight. "Eli," I ventured, desperately wanting to see him again beyond the defense mechanisms. "We're trying to create something, help people together." He stepped closer, shaking his head, as if witnessing a tragic performance. "Creating something? It's delusional. Do you really think hope can survive in a world so unapologetically cruel?" His presence loomed like a specter, mingling laughter with heartbreak, and I found my legs trembling beneath me, uncertain of how to respond to this shift in the air. The weight of despair settled on my shoulders once more, each heartbeat stifled by the encroaching shadows of his derision. This, he gestured toward the man and the crowd around him, is nothing but a distraction. You think it matters? There will always be more of them, and you can't carry all the lost away. In that moment, the reality that everything we tried to build could collapse around us became alarmingly clear. My heart raced, infusing a surge of determination. We may not carry them all, Eli, but what if just one heart could ignite another? Eli's eyes narrowed, a flicker of curiosity sparking behind the jagged edges of his skepticism. And what happens when the next heart is broken? When your optimism dances away in the wind, leaving nothing in its wake? Before I could answer, the man stirred beside me, his voice cracking with unexpected steadiness. At least I'll have known someone cared. And in that instant, as Eli's facade teetered, a sliver of hope shimmered between betrayal and resilience. I had proven that even amidst despair, we could create a space that wove the fragmented pieces of our souls together, but as the last vestiges of light enveloped us, Eli turned away, stepping back into the shadows, his figure fading once more. A voice echoed deep within, urging me to confront this gnawing void, but just as turmoil swirled anew, I felt something shift beneath my feet, a revelation that felt like breaking ground, raw and precarious. That I glanced at Max, the unspoken plea reflected in his eyes. Together, we would chase those shadows. Sometimes, even a tiny flicker could ignite the fiercest blaze. But as the crackling air buzzed with uncertainty, I also felt a chilling weight of truth descend. What unseen horrors awaited in the fog of night? And was Eli only the beginning of what we would lose in our pursuit of light? The night unfurled its cloak further around us, a tapestry woven from uncertainty and fear. The shadows deepened as Eli's figure slipped from my grasp, leaving behind an echoing void that squeezed at my chest. I turned back to the man on the ground, but something had shifted in the air. His vitality had dimmed, the connection we forged now trembling on the precipice of disillusionment. "What's your name?" I pressed gently, hoping to bring him back from the edge of despair. "What's it matter?" He grunted, the harshness of his words a reluctant defense against the warmth we had started building. "You won't remember it in the morning." "Maybe not," I admitted. "But right now, the little things matter. Just like you do. Please talk to me." He eyed me warily, but the flicker of recognition returned, the small ember from before igniting just slightly with curiosity. "Wes," he mumbled, dragging a hand through his tangled hair. "Call me Wes." "Nice to meet you, Wes." "I'm Anna, and this is Max," I said, motioning toward him. "We're not here to pretend we can save the world, but sometimes a small act can ripple outward. You showed up here tonight for a reason, and I want to understand what brought you to this moment." Wes looked away, anger coloring his cheeks as he considered my question. "I had dreams too, once," he whispered, almost as if he were revealing a long-buried secret. "But dreams don't feed you when you're starving, and hope doesn't save you from the cold." "Maybe hope takes time," Max chimed in. "But you can't give up believing there's a path forward. Even in suffering, you can find strength." Wes's gaze darted between us, still skeptical, but for the first time, I sensed something more than bitterness, a hint of yearning fighting to break free. The night felt electric, charged with the weight of our combined emotions, the raw truth hanging like an unfinished thought. Then, as if the wind had shifted its course, I caught a glimpse of movement at the edge of the crowd. A figure emerged, cloaked in mystery, shadows dancing in their wake. Dressed in a crisp suit, the glimmering threads glinted under the flickering streetlights, creating a stark contrast to the gritty backdrop surrounding us. My throat tightened as I recognized the face that followed. The city had been buzzing with whispers of this man for weeks, Malcolm Harrison, a local billionaire known for his philanthropic efforts and uncanny intuition in spotting talent. "Everyone deserves a second chance," Malcolm announced, his voice commanding yet soothing as it sliced through the air. "You don't merely survive the streets, Wes, you learn survival itself. It's a skill. A gift." The crowd began to swell, curiosity peaked, tension shifting like a wave of energy washing over us. Wes shielded his eyes against the lights, confusion mingling with disbelief. Could someone like him be seen as more than a statistic? I know how little the world offers, yet how much it demands, Malcolm continued. Every defeated dream, every ounce of despair, you know what it means to lose, but you also know the depths of struggle. You carry that weight daily. But what if I told you it could become your strength? Wes's body stiffened, as if bracing against the oncoming tide of desperation. What are you selling? He spat, a hint of defiance laced with anguish. Quite the opposite, Malcolm replied, stepping closer, eyes piercing through the barriers we all built in our minds. I'm offering an opportunity, a chance to transform your pain into purpose. I see potential swirling beneath your rage, Wes. Are you willing to let it emerge? The crowd buzzed with whispers, and for a moment, time fell away. A singular fragility embraced the space between us. In Wes's gaze, I recognized a flicker, a shimmer of hope desperately clawing its way back into existence while grappling with the familiar grip of fear that I felt a tug at my heart as uncertainty blended with longing, perhaps not for Wes alone, but for Eli too. Would he ever see that light? But Malcolm didn't stop there. He turned his gaze toward me and Max, scrutinizing us with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Your light shines through even the darkest corners, he said, a weight of sincerity anchoring his voice. But the burden does not belong to you alone. Perhaps together, we can weave dreams anew. My heart raced, his invitation sensing the threads of possibility stitching together in ways I had not anticipated. I braced myself to respond, the desire to bridge that gap boiling within me. But the thought of Eli as shadow lingering in my heart held me back, reminding me of every sacrifice that was still unmade in our pursuit of something greater. And just when I thought hope might flourish like an unseen bud, the world erupted around us. The sound of sirens screamed through the streets, slicing through the fragile moment with sinister clarity. Get down! Shouted a voice, chaos erupting as panic set in, scattering the crowd. People screamed, darting in all directions, as I instinctively grabbed Wes's arm, pulling him close. We need to find safety. Safety? He echoed, disbelief etched in the lines of his face. Is that even a thing anymore? But before I could respond, another figure emerged from the shadows, a youth, no older than at 16, face twisted in anger, urgency running through him like wildfire. He's in trouble, Eli's in trouble. They're looking for him. The blood drained from my face as I realized what that meant. The risk had multiplied. In our efforts to reach out to others, the darkness had followed, threatening those whose lives intertwined with ours. Max stepped forward, determination written across his features, but I felt a growing fear seep through, tightening my chest, as I glanced back at Malcolm searching for answers. Come with us. I cried through the chaos, desperately trying to maintain the connection we had ignited. We all need to protect those we love, and I refuse to let Eli drown in this darkness. Yet in the howl of despair and confusion, Wes pulled away, uncertainty seeping in as his fears threatened to engulf him again. What do I even have to offer in a world like this? And just as I prepared to answer, another blaring siren cut through our resolution, bringing the night crashing down around us, leaving me ensnared between choices, haunted by truth. Could I reach for the light while shadows whispered of despair? The faces around us blurred, mere fragments of presence amidst gathering chaos. And as we stood on the edge, a chilling realization gripped my heart. This was only the beginning of a battle I never imagined I would have to face, steeped in longing for connection and a desperate urgency to save the souls intertwined in darkness. The chaos blazed like a wildfire, consuming every bit of clarity I once held. Sirens wailed as if mourning the very dreams I reached for, drowning me in a cacophony of fear. Wes's eyes darted around, mirroring my own turmoil, while Max stood by, his usually steady demeanor cracking under the pressure that enveloped us. Eli can't fight this alone. I shouted over the noise, my pulse quickening at the thought of him being cornered like a wounded animal. He needs us, Wes. We can't stay here. Wes hesitated, uncertainty dancing in his gaze. What if it's a trap? What if we put ourselves in danger? It's not like I matter. Stop. I implored, seizing his shoulders, holding him steady against the assault of his doubts. You matter. You have to see that. We can save him, all of us. Malcolm, still amidst the chaos, turned his piercing gaze on us, the weight of his presence momentarily quieting the maelstrom around us. Every choice leads us somewhere, he said, his voice cutting through the pandemonium like a beacon. And every moment matters, whether we believe it or not. If there is a chance to rewrite our stories, we must seize it, even if the path is fraught with danger. The perception of danger pressed heavily against my chest, each breath I took laced with anxiety and urgency. Swallowing hard, I glanced back toward the shadows where a few figures flitted past, each silhouette a potential threat or ally. Fittingly, like life itself, it was impossible to discern between hope and despair. Do you truly believe you belong in this world, Wes? Malcolm's voice resonated deeply, almost turning the adrenaline-fueled chaos into a meditative space. What if your scars hold the stories someone desperately needs to hear? What if your past grants you the armor to protect others? I could sense Wes's internal battle, a war raging just beneath the surface. The remnants of his dreams wrestled fiercely with the burdens of his current reality. His voice trembled as he replied, I don't know if I have the strength anymore. You do, I reassured him, squeezing his hands. This isn't merely about you, it's about all of us. Together, we can carve out hope from the ashes. But we have to move now. And then, as if the universe responded to my plea, Max stepped forward with a fierce determination, channeling the energy I desperately needed. What do we do, Anna? If we go after Eli, how do we do it without losing ourselves in the madness? That question hung heavy in the air, the urgency contrasting sharply with the fragile determination settling into my bones. I scanned the gathering, searching for clarity amid the blur of chaos, and then a possibility emerged through my tangled thoughts. We split up, I finally suggested, much to my surprise. Max, you know, he interrupted, shaking his head resolutely. We stay together. Always. Wes could be the bridge, I said, heart racing with new ideas. He understands this world in a way that we don't. He can help us navigate through the danger. Wes glanced at me, uncertainty still etched in his features. You really think I can contribute anything? I believe every one of us has the power to make choices that ripple outward, Malcolm interjected, his voice steady and encouraging. You might not see how yet, but there's brilliance waiting to break free from your shadows. If we're going to protect the ones we love, we must do it together. The colors of the crowd swirled chaotically, but as Malcolm spoke, the momentum shifted around us, the voices of fear blending into a symphony of hope. It took everything within me to remain steadfast despite the whirlwind of emotions pressing down, but I clung to that glimmer of hope, determined to light the way through the darkness gripping us all. Let us go, Wes, I urged gently, feeling the flicker of resolve surge through him like a breath of fresh air. We can make it. I promise. Wes hesitated, then finally nodded, the small gesture a monumental shift toward belief. Armed with newfound purpose, we surged forward through the shrouded noise, propelled by our need to save Eli, and just as we made our way down the alley, a voice rang out behind us. You can't leave. There are consequences spinning around. I locked eyes with Malcolm. What do you mean? He stepped closer, face a mask of intense concern. If you're caught in the chaos, it could lead to even more, but then a violent crash echoed behind us, the blast of shattered glass drowning his words as the shocks reverberated through our bones. I turned, heart skipping in my chest as I watched the night morph into an unrelenting storm, the world fracturing as chaos swallowed reason. In that harrowing moment, I thought of our dreams, those delicate threads we fought so hard to weave in the tapestry of our lives. And just when I thought we might be able to hold on to hope, the horizon skewed with impending doom, our fates intertwining with the promise of peril, yet stubbornly refusing to let go. And with that single moment of realization, the energy shifted, leaving us standing at the precipice of choice and breathtaking uncertainty, teetering on the line between despair and the faintest glimmer of hope. The chaos subsided like the last echoes of a storm, a heavy silence hanging in the air, thick with uncertainty. As the adrenaline waned, reality began to settle in, leaving us breathless amid the crumbled bricks and scattered debris. Eli's name swirled in my thoughts, every passing second felt like a ticking clock counting down to an unknown fate. Anna, Max's voice was steady against the growing tumult in my mind. We have to find him. Now. I nodded, encouraged by the fire in his eyes. There's still a chance. He's out there somewhere. With that determination igniting an unspoken pact between us, I felt the weight of responsibility bearing down, every heartbeat another reminder of what hung in the balance. The streets felt alive as we moved together, though shadows clung tightly to each corner we turned. Wes walked alongside me, his jaw set, and I could see the threads of fear and hope weaving a complex tapestry across his features. Are you sure about this? He asked, genuine concern lacing his voice. What if we run into those men again? I took a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth. We won't let fear dictate our choices. We're in this together, and I believe in the power of what we can build. He seemed to take solace in my words, a flicker of faith igniting behind those cautious eyes. What if we can find Eli before it's too late? What if we can bring him back to the light? His words resonated like a gentle chime in my heart. We'll make sure he realizes he's not alone. As we trudged through the maze of alleys, glimmers of hope sparked between us, pushing back against the shadows that hung heavily in the air. I could picture Eli's face as he wandered amidst that darkness, a fractured soul that needed connection, not just for himself but for the fragile web that bound us all in shared experiences. Suddenly, a sharp shove from a familiar figure jerking us back into reality. Malcolm stood before us, desperation etched across his features. You need to come with me, he insisted, urgency threading through his tone. It's worse than I thought. Max stepped forward, fierce protectiveness radiating off him. What do you know? Where is Eli? Malcolm hesitated, as if weighing the repercussions of flinging open that door again. They're gathering people, those who know him well. If the shadows have a hold on Eli, they'll want to ensure he can't escape. Why should we trust you? Wes asked, tension pulsing under the surface. You wander in and out of our lives like it's a game. It's not. You're running out of time, Malcolm said, worry splaying out in those words, a heart laid bare. I stood by while Theo's dreams were dismantled. It's time for something different. You have to be brave enough to dive into the darkness. At his urging, something uncoiled within me, a sense of clarity. We have to go, I announced, the urgency resonating deeply. He deserves more than to be forgotten. We'll face this together. Just as I finished speaking, a voice shattered the tension in the air, urging us to pivot towards the swelling crowd at the alley's end, where dim lights blinked in desperate rhythm. Among the thrumming echoes of relief and anguish, the familiar timbre of a voice crested through. Eli. My heart stuttered, propelled forward by instinct. There he was, standing at the edge, surrounded by whispers, shadows darkening his essence, pulling at his fortitude. Theo's legacy found its way back to life, Malcolm murmured, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. You're all part of something greater than yourselves. Stand firm. As we surged forward, the amalgamation of fears blended with the pulse of hope surrounding us, the electricity of camaraderie fueling every step. But, just as we reached him, Eli caught sight of the unease threading through the crowd. His expression twisted, an amalgam of disbelief and anger. Leave. Just leave me alone. He shouted, fraught with the hurt he had been carrying. You think you can save me? I'm beyond saving. Eli, don't. I shouted back, desperation gnashing at my heart. We're here for you. The walls he had built against the world seemed to tremble at my words, but his facade remained steadfast. You don't understand. This world breaks people like us. I don't belong. Wes stepped closer, a soft fire igniting in his resolve. That's a lie, Eli. You have a place, you just can't see it. The crowd hushed, the vulnerability of the moment thick as honey. Do you see us? I pressed, fighting against the swell of despair. Do you see your capacity to make a difference? We all felt lost once, but together, we're something whole. Eli's gaze darted away, a battle raging beneath his exterior. Yet, as he began to speak, I caught a glimpse of the tenderness buried deep within. But what if I'm not strong enough? You have more strength than you know, Max countered, stepping forward beside Wes. Strength to embrace vulnerability, to ask for help, to let others carry the burden with you is where true strength lies. The truth of those words sang through the crowd, rippling outward, crashing against Eli's walls. For the first time, he faltered, eyes shimmering as emotions played in the depths of his gaze. What if I fail? He whispered, the slightest tremor hidden beneath the vastness of uncertainty, but just as I was about to respond, another voice broke through. What if you soar? A stranger stepped forth, eyes bright and fierce, flashing an undeniable sense of purpose. You have nothing to lose. And in that pivotal moment where uncertainty hung heavy, one solitary truth emerged: acceptance lies not in perfection but in connection. Inhaling deeply, there was a shift in the air, a bridge forming as Eli looked deep within himself, grappling with demons yet yearning for redemption. Every heart present held its breath, hope snagging sharply between despair and possibility's beckoning call. Okay, he murmured at last, the tremors of doubt coursing through each word, but determination etched that fragile resolve. I'll try. Time suspended as relief flooded the air, building a formidable bond around us, a web of connection woven tight. We could create something unstoppable together, but just as hope surged, shadows lurked, darkness still prowled. The thread spun widely around us, I could almost taste the victory threatening to be stripped away. Let us move, Malcolm commanded, authority washing over the shroud of fear. Theo's legacy has a chance, but we have to stand united. As the crowd began to surge forward, we folded in behind Eli, heart pounding with courage. Each step forward ignited a newfound blaze of purpose in our chests, the flame of connection shaping us into something stronger. Yet, just as the shadows began to disperse, a chilling voice pierced through. You think you can keep that boy? You're all fools. A figure loomed ahead, steeped in malevolence, eyes black as coal, arms stretched wide and poised to snuff out our fragile spark. Leave him alone. Max shouted, stepping in front with fierce protectiveness. But even as we braced for impact, adrenaline coursing through our veins, there was something beautiful in the charge ahead. Heartbeats drumming in synchrony, we shattered the barriers that threatened to divide us. Stand with me, everyone. I cried, carrying the audacity to push back against the advancing tide of darkness that in our hearts. We felt the power of resolution unfurl, a longing echoing across the expanse. And in that moment of intuition, where the light pushed painfully against the dark, we would rise together. Forgiveness, companionship, and fierce love became our armor. Hand in hand, as shadows slithered forth, we stood resolute, ready to defend and celebrate the light of every soul, the dreams of the forgotten, cradle of resilience fueling our fight, because that's the essence of humanity, woven from dreams and struggles, intricately tied to the light we shared, the rare flicker ignited against the backdrop of despair. And with every beat of our hearts, we carried the embers that refused to be extinguished, that in the face of darkness, we chose to rise and face whatever awaited us together.